Good evening and welcome to the joint Community Development and Finance Committee meetings for Monday, February 10th, 2025. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight. The first item is a matter of approval for the January 27th, 2024 joint meeting minutes as circulated. May I have a motion from Community Development?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You got to call it.
First, I'll call Finance to order as well. And on behalf of Finance, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The second item on the agenda is the matter of a funding contribution to the Elyria Community Partnership for year 2025, referred by Elyria Community Partnership Director Roberts. We have representatives here tonight from Elyria Community Partnership. Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record. Oh, you're not on.
Hello.
There we go.
Good evening. Monet Roberts, 225 East Avenue, Elyria, Ohio.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. First and foremost, just want to say thank you to the City of Elyria for all the hard work and dedication that you all have made with us in collaboration. Last year, we were able to complete a lot of great things. I'm sure you all have been down Broad Street and seen those beautiful murals, the landscaping there, and the bike racks that are kind of downtown. We hope to get more of those installed as well. So I just wanted to say thank you to you all. This work would not be possible without your support, without your help. In many areas, I wanted to make sure you all had an impact report. In that report, I also attached some other things just so you all are aware of our events for the year. A program called Urality that we're going to be launching. We've been talking about it for a little bit over a year now, but we're just working with the Nord Family Foundation in Heritage, Ohio, to get those things lined up. But we're super excited to have an inventory to track downtown businesses, storefronts, specs downtown, really getting a better understanding of what's available downtown. We actually get a lot of requests, like what's available, what are the specs. So we're excited about that program being able to be launched this year. And I do believe you have our event calendar, and our newest grant opportunity that we're giving out to our business owners. It is a up to $2,000 business opportunity. If you all know any small businesses in the area that could utilize that for marketing and technical support, please give them that information. We are excited to do that on behalf of KeyBank, so we're super excited about that. I would have given you all information on our Grow Ely program as well, which we're going to have 5 business owners participating in a pitch deck competition and a 9-month program so that they can learn how to grow and scale their business. But the deadline actually just closed Friday. So I will not give that information to you, but I do want you all to know that. But jumping into this impact report, just a couple of things I really do want to highlight. After we calculated the attendance that we had last year, we realized that the economic impact, if you look at it at about $20 per person when they're coming down to these events, whether that's the Small Business Saturday events that we had or the Third Thursdays and several of the other events that we had, and even included in some of our Walking Wednesdays last year, we were able to calculate about $102,000 that goes into our community, back into our business owners, that we were able to impact. As far as public art goes, that Connect Ely space roughly came out to about $49,683 from our income streams that we were able to contribute. And then the public investment was actually from the 2 facade grants that were approved through the city with the 2 property owners to do the masonry work. And the private investment was about $11,000 with the city or with the property owner who invested to finish that space as well. We were also able to do a little bit of charitable donations, and we expect to increase that this year with the 2 programs that we have for our business owners. And we were able to raise some funds, including the funds that we raised with you all last year as well. And our email contact list has grown to about 827. I don't know if you all remember when I came in, we had about 200 emails. So we're excited that that email list has grown. Also, just for Ms. Davis and Councilwoman Mitchell, and I think I seen that Councilwoman Soroka was interested as well. We did get our first AmeriCorps Vista. She started today. Her name's Simone Christian. She is also the proud owner of Planaria down there at 53 East Avenue, and we are super excited about her involvement. She's going to be primarily helping with the water tower cleanup. So I know that that has been a request for several years that has been made, and we are super excited to have her work with us. We're gonna try and schedule a meeting with Councilwoman Mitchell and Councilwoman Davis just to see how we can move forward on that project. But we are super excited about her involvement and excited to continue moving forward. I know this is a lot of information, and I know that when we first started this organization, that funding was initially supposed to be starter funding, so that's why we have scaled back a little bit this year. We're still in the process of growing, and we're looking into different revenue streams so that we can continue to become sustainable. Our charitable income has come in a little bit stronger, but we're still looking for support from you all, and the support that you all give goes a long way. You may not see it, you may not understand it fully, but I'm letting you know that this funding goes a long way in making sure that downtown has someone that is consistently working it, consistently working to look for opportunities for our business owners, for our property owners. That Urality program is going to be crucial in building that target and that inventory. We're excited about the investments that we're making into our business owners, and this impact report is going to look a lot different next year. So I don't want you all to think that we take this lightly, the funding that we receive from you all. And I know that last year it was requested that we have a couple of meetings yearly. We can revisit that, how you all want us to report on those things. I know I stepped out for a little bit for the celebration of my new baby, and she's growing and lovely, so I appreciate you all giving me the time and the space to cherish with her. But I did want you all to know that we cherish this opportunity. And also on here, something that I'm super happy about is that the Pivotal Housing Development is a $15 million investment with our partner into the Pivotal, the Foster area. So we're super excited about everything that we're doing, you all, and please don't take it lightly, or I hope you understand that we don't take it lightly, the funding that you all have done over the years, and we hope that that funding continues. Do you all have any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. I'll open it up to the panel for discussion. Any community development? Mr. Oswald?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hope everything's going good. I have a hard time saying this because I've backed and supported you guys for a long time. I think you've come a long way. And I think Mr. Pileski probably knows a little bit more than I do, but it's getting harder and harder for us to keep donating, and I don't know what everybody, I feel like I want to, but I feel like we should maybe put this on hold. I don't know. Like I said, it bothers me to even have to say this, but you know, our general fund isn't looking good. The next few years aren't looking good, and if we don't start looking at ways, you know, to start saving. So I just wanted to put that out. So I just want to let you know, but it's not because of the job you guys are doing. I mean, you've come a long way from the beginning. You know, I remember the hardships we went through. That's why it's so hard for me to say something like this, but I just wanted to mention it. Thank you.
If I could just comment really quickly, and let me make sure I say this right. If there's anything that we can do to sit down, I know sometimes it doesn't make sense, but the investment that you're making, if you were to put this into staff time, you're saving dollars by investing into us to dedicate that time towards this, where we can have our volunteers and we can have our board members that have the expertise, and then myself really dedicate towards this. So if there are things that we can be doing to increase being able to build capacity for the city as well, we're willing to sit down and talk about those things. So I don't know if that helps a little bit on that discussion.
Thank you. Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, congratulations on your new baby.
Thank you.
Did you mention the Foster Avenue project?
Yes.
Can you give us an update on that?
Yes, so we are currently in the process of closing still. There are some documents, I do believe, with Key and Grow America that need to be finalized, but we are in the process of closing. I know they're eager to get that done because I do believe that we have requested some time for the purchase of the property, so that has been extended. But we are in the process of closing. I've been out for about a week, and I haven't gotten updates, unfortunately. I had an unexpected family emergency, but I can give you more updates further if you'd like, but I do know that we are in the process of closing. Mike, I know you're a part of that project. I have been off, so I'll let him speak to that, because there may be some details that I might have missed last week.
Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Mike Griffin. I live at 1085 Gulf Road, Elyria. The current, the last piece of the funding, it's not that it's not approved, it's the finalizing the documents is for the Brownfields grant that they received, which is to demolish the school building. So the state of Ohio has to finalize the documents for that. Everything else is really ready to go. So as soon as we get those documents, we'll do the financial closing. I would say by the end of the month. I can't promise that, but I would expect that that's what it will be. Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Chair. I forgot what I was going to ask. Are they going to do the demolition of the school first, or they're going to start building on the back end first?
Where is that? Okay. I know that with the city has reinforced that that building needs to be down this year. So they may do both at the same time, I'm not sure.
I'm going to let Law Director Deary give an update.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, yes, you may recall that I'll call it grant, that was made through Leary Community Partnership, $250,000 to encourage this, incentivize this project. It is to go towards the preparation of the site and demolition. Part of the condition of that is that that needs to be, that part of the project needs to be completed by December 31st of 2025. So it may be, obviously, we're cognizant that $250,000, it was not going to be enough to necessarily complete the job, but that they need to move towards that, and it is a reimbursement grant. So work needs to be done towards that goal in order for that to be fulfilled. Yep.
Thank you, Law Director Deary. Mrs. You have to call Phil. She's on your committee.
Ms. Davis, please.
Oh, thank you, through you, Chair. I noticed that it was a trailer has been setting on this property on the corner of Madison and Foster for quite a while now, like well over a month. And I was in hopes that, you know, we could see something started with the project. So do you know anything about this? It looks like it may be an office trailer.
I don't know specific details, and I can get back on that, but I do know upon closing, they're supposed to be moving relatively quickly because that demo does need to take place this year, so.
Thank you.
Mrs. Sawerka?
Thank you, through the chair. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Oswald, about this is really hard for us to keep giving money, but I was one of the doubting Thomases, you know that, and you and I have had those conversations. I also attended a couple of the events that went on, and I thought that they were done really well and successful. And so my feeling as of today is you've given us enough, sort of, the book report substantiates the dollar request. And the water tower, I have a very fond place in my heart for that water tower, and I'm glad that it's going to get saved. Because I think it was dated 1867 is the date on it. I mean, so it's a piece of history that we really do need to save. Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you. Mr. Pileski and then Mr. Oswald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the committee's information, the past contributions to the Elyria partnership, community partnership has come out of the 2016 half% income tax fund, Economic Development Department. So, of course, that's due to expire. The levy itself is due to expire June 30 of 2026. It is on the ballot, but I believe there has been some contribution included in the 2025 appropriation that will be coming to you within the next few weeks.
Thank you for the update. Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so to Mr. Pileski, so right now, then, we would have money kind of allocated for this at this point?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look, but I believe there's money been appropriated in the Economic Development half% income tax fund. So it has never come out of the general fund, to my recollection. It's always come out of the 2016 half% income tax fund.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion from community development?
Any more questions from finance? Read the
Read the
committee.
committee report. We have considered the matter of a funding contribution to the Elyria Community Partnership, ECP, for the year 2025. An ordinance authorizing the city to make a funding contribution in the amount of $75,000 to support the Elyria Community Partnership. May I have a motion from community development?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Mitchell.
Second.
Second by Mr. Oswald. Any further questions been called? Any further discussion?
Question.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of finance, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor, use voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, item number 3 is the matter of a downtown historic redevelopment program applicant for 2 properties, 340 Broad Street and 346 Broad Street, referred by Community Development Manager Alma Bayed. Welcome.
Thank you. Very nice pronunciation of the last name.
Did I do it right?
You did.
Oh, good.
You did. Good evening, through the chair. Yes, these are for 2 projects. They are both roofing projects at 346 Broad Street and 340 Broad Street. So it is basically removing the existing polyurethane roof coating and applying another coat. This application did go through the Landmarks Commission, and they provided their comments to the applicant. It also received design review approval. It received approval through the Elyria Economic Development Committee, and so now it is in front of you. This is a 50% reimbursement grant up to $50,000. At 346 Broad Street, that would be a reimbursement of $13,900, and 340 Broad Street is $18,207.50. There was a stipulation that the EEDC put on the application, was that because of the time frame for the Issue 6 funding, which is what these projects come out at, that instead of 24 months, that the applicant complete the project within 12 months, or both projects within 12 months. But he is here in case to briefly present on his project or answer any questions if he's in the audience. Oh, he's right here, Mr. L.
Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record if you're going to speak.
Good evening, Jamil Elder.
Thank you.
Pretty straightforward, just trying to keep the integrity of my buildings in good shape. So both of them are pretty much due. I do have some slight leaks. Of course, you know, I intend to own these buildings for quite a while, so I do want to get them fixed up and properly sealed and, you know, keep my buildings in good shape and not be part of the past history of downtown, so.
Thank you. Any discussion from community development? Mr. Oswald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that was kind of an inexpensive price. Are they, so they're not tearing off, they're just going over what's existing right now?
I believe what they're doing is they're cutting back. 340 is the main building that I looked at first. Basically, what they do is they cut it, it's a concrete deck, so they cut it back, and then they reseal the entire building from one end to the other. There's like a 30-year warranty for both sides, for both buildings. Of course, my intention is to get it as weather permitting, next couple months, so get it done.
That was my second
Yes, sir.
question, if
Yes,
you
sir.
got 30-year guarantee, that's pretty
Yes,
good.
I think
Okay.
that's a great plus for me, I don't have to, at least in my lifetime, I don't have to worry about it,
Yeah,
So
okay,
hopefully,
thank you.
I don't want to say long gone, but I might, probably retire sooner than that,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
On
Anyone?
behalf of Finance, are there any questions? Mrs. Soroka?
Thank you, through the chair. Are these buildings, do you have tenants in these buildings right now? Are they leased?
Both of them are currently my businesses. The first floor is the sub shop / convenience store on 346, and then 340, we have a beauty supply store there. And we've been there 15-plus years on the one side and going on 10 years on the beauty supply store.
And through the chair, do you own the old Wagner Music building too? I think that was 350.
No, I think it was, I'm not sure what it was before me. The 346 was, I think Mom's Open Kitchen. Mom's Open Kitchen.
Right,
Yes.
right. And Zephyr Grill was next door to it. And then Wagner Music was, I'm dating myself, that was next to
Okay.
that.
Correct. Sounds about right.
So
think at
these
one-
are fully occupied, so they're fully occupied right
Yes, I am
now?
I
Okay.
currently have both places in business.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just for everyone's sake, these were run through the Economic Development Committee that the mayor, myself, Jack, Sarah, Donna, and that's it, sit on. So they were passed there. So I think they're great projects,
Yes, sir.
to keep the buildings updated. So
Yes, sir.
I'll be
Appreciate
in
that.
support of it. Any additional, I'm sorry, Ms. Davis.
Through you, Chair. So these projects are for the front, or
No.
Or the roofs.
just,
The roofs, yes. Sorry.
And it's a partial reimbursement. I think what you're thinking of, there's a different set of grants.
We'll let Law Director Deary chime in on this a little.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, well, through you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Davis, if you'd finish your question. I'm guessing but I don't want, I'm not in your brain, so,
oh, no, my question was, because I was concerned about the front of these buildings.
okay.
To see if they're going to be brought up to date, to look like something, more, let's be more uniformed. And I thought this was what this money was for.
So this application's not through you, Mr. Chair. This is not brought under the facade improvement program. This is under a downtown historic redevelopment. So if this were the facade improvement, then yes, then this would involve the front. Sorry, village front, but this is under the historic redevelopment program, roofing, and other pieces, parts of a building would qualify.
The condition of my buildings are probably about an A condition, interior and exterior. Unfortunately, the building next to my building is kind of like the sore eye, which kind of makes it look worse than it should on the left of me. So hopefully they're gone sooner than not.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so you said historic. This is, has to meet requirements for historic restoration, and so this is going to get inspected through them to make sure that this work is done the way that historically has to be done.
Mona, can you let them know who this ran through already?
The company doing the work is West Roofing Systems. So, they are locally owned and they do very, very, very good work. I know they're going to pull the permits, the applicable permits that need to, from the city. And, of course, their work is top notch and is one of the reasons why I'm going with them.
Thank you.
Mona, if you would.
Yes, so the historical grant, I know it's called the Downtown Historic Redevelopment Grant, and basically the only requirement on that is that it's a contributing member of our historic downtown. That was a study that was done several years ago. It's not like a state historic tax credit where it has to meet a certain standard. It's just our local program.
Thank you for the clarification. Law Director Deary?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Almobayed, so you had mentioned Landmarks Commission, so is this a situation where the permits, in order for a building department to issue the permits, the Landmarks has to, okay? You meant, did Landmarks give their approval already?
They don't have to approve it, but
They don't?
No, they just
Okay.
provide comments.
Oh, okay, thank you, very good. So from there, from where they sit, they're good, or the city's good to move forward? Thank you.
Correct.
Any further discussion? I'll read the committee report. We have two. All right, one for each address. All right, we have considered the matter of a historic downtown redevelopment program applicant Jamil Elder for the improvements to 340 Broad Street, an ordinance authorizing said program application. This was approved by EEDC committee on February 3rd, 2025. May I have a motion from community development?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Mitchell, seconded by Mr. Oswald.
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
On behalf of Finance, could I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next one. We have considered the matter of a downtown historic improvement or redevelopment program applicant, Jamil Elder, for improvements to 346 Broad Street, an ordinance authorizing said program application, which was approved by the EEDC committee on February 3rd, 2025. May I have a motion from community development?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Oswald, seconded by Mrs. Mitchell. Any further discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of Finance, can I get a motion?
So, second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
At this time, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn community development.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Oswald, seconded by Mrs. Mitchell.
Call for the question?
Question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Community development's adjourned.
First item on the finance agenda, which has already been called to order, the matter of the approval of the December 9th, 2024 and January 27th, 2025 finance meeting minutes as circulated. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 on the agenda, the matter of delinquent and final EPU charges to be certified to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office. Public Works Supervisor Connor.
Good evening. Through you, Mr. Chair. There was a list of probably a dozen and a half accounts in the amount of $21,393.58 that were approved by the Resolution Board last Friday to be passed on for approval.
Are there questions? Mrs. Sawerka?
Thank you, through the chair. Mrs. Connor, could you give us a little background on the sanitation only at 1614 Prospect? Is that a home, apartment?
No, that's the complex across from Eastern Heights School, where there's a beauty shop and the cake place.
Is that a commercial that we're giving sanitation service to?
That's one that's classified as a business.
If
Yes.
if we could ask the director to perhaps look into that?
There are a few of those, yes.
And then my second question through the chair.
Well, he's
Oh,
ready
I'm
to
sorry.
answer. Safety Service Director?
Thank you, through you. There are about 40 small businesses that currently receive sanitation from the city. So we looked in that before. They seem to be in line with the amount and so forth. So there are currently about 40 counts.
Through the chair, I would ask the director to maybe give us a little update on that at some point, since we're going to be looking at sanitation and whether commercial. In fact, timely, I had a call today from a small business that asked if we did any commercial sanitation accounts because they've been shopping and what they'll have to pay to Republic and/or Kimball. She was just checking to see if we do commercial. So if we're going to have some and not have others, I think we need to make sure that we establish the why and the why not.
Sure, through you,
that-
Mr. I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay, that's all right.
We are, through you, Mr. Chair, these accounts were in existence when we came in, but we are revising the sanitation rules right now, so that's something we'll incorporate into that conversation.
Okay, thank you. And if I could continue, Mr. Chairman. 210 Washington, I think this has been on like 10 times. This apartment building, right?
Yes, it is. We do get our money when he pays his real estate taxes. I have to look and see where he is, but he hasn't paid us in some time.
Law Director?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I was present at the board meeting last week, and there was a discussion about these types of situations. I would just bring to the attention of the committee that this would be such a situation where having a delinquency fee would probably
Persuade
be
them.
appropriate. This is a property, and this is a customer who only pays when the taxes come due. And I mean, essentially what you have is a de facto, interest-free loan. So something like having, that would be something that I think it would be absolutely appropriate for council to consider, a late fee.
Mr. Snyder?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Connor. Also, 523 Griswold, this is a common one as well, right? Is that the hotel by Bob Evans?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. That is the Arlington Inn that used to be, I believe, the Red Roof Inn. They had another leak out there, and our leak credit rules only give you a leak credit every 2 years. So that's a leftover bill from another leak there.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what their occupancy is, but they're there.
Thank you.
Mr. Oswald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not on this committee, but the question I have, Ms. Connor, is I think I've heard this come up a couple different times that, yes, we need to look at putting a delinquency fee. Yes, we need to see if it's going to be an extra charge for this. We need to see if they can pay with the Visa or if we're going to have to charge them for that. I keep hearing that. Are you guys having meetings to get it figured out so that we can say that we're going to do this?
Safety Service Director?
Thank you. Through you, we are in the process of changing our credit card service provider. So we just finalized the contract for that, and IT is going through the process of changing that over to a new provider, which will include different terminals, the whole 9 yards. So that was step one. And then we're also reviewing or revising our rules. With that, we will add a section related to late fees, as well as fees for the use of credit cards to pay the bills. This particular credit card provider that we're changing to, we've already discussed with them about that fee, because currently the city's paying that with our current provider, about shifting that over to the customer. And we've already started those conversations. So it's just a matter of kind of doing it in an organized fashion, but all those things are being discussed, and I anticipate they'll be coming to you in the near future to approve.
Mrs. Sawerka?
Thank you. Through you, as a follow-up director, or Mrs. Connor, do we know the percentage of payers that pay by credit card? Is it 50%?
Yes,
More than 50%?
our revenue that comes in is at least 50% every month through credit cards, either on the phone, at the kiosk, on the web, or coming to the window with cards.
Thank you.
It's significant. Are there any additional questions? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of inactive delinquent public utility accounts. A resolution authorizing said delinquent accounts to be certified to the Lorraine County Auditor's Office as per the attached list. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Safety Service Director, outstanding that we're almost there with the new, that's great news. Next item on the agenda, number 3, the matter of applying for a National Endowment for the Arts NEA grant. Director Reardon, welcome. Good to see you.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair, through you. So this is a grant that was brought to my attention through Macaulay. It's the National Endowments for the Arts. So we think a good fit for this would be for the Pops concert. So this is a 1-to-1 matching grant. The grant deadline is February 26th, so I am asking that this be approved through an emergency. I'm not sure if I put that on there, so I apologize if I didn't.
It is.
Okay. So 1-to-1 matching, this actually would not be awarded until November of 2025, so this would go towards the August, September of 2026 event/concert that we do, the yearly one. We're asking, it will be a $23,000 grant application, so our portion on that would be $11,500, and that would cover the complete event.
I'm going to ask unintentional question. Is there a possibility that the National Endowment for the Arts won't be here in November?
Through you, Chair, I have no
Is that-
way, I have no way of knowing that, unfortunately. I mean, and the thing is we're not, obviously, if it's not there, I don't want to say we're not losing anything, because if we get awarded money, we would be losing it from them, but we're not really losing anything, we're not putting any money, I don't.
Right, I'm trying to think if we could get stuck in the middle of this, if we were awarded and we put our 50 per, okay, go ahead, Law Director.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Director Reardon, is this reimbursement? And I understand this, you're looking at this, if I understand correctly, for this would be for the 2026 concert. So we would know ahead of time. Or I guess if we hear nothing, in a way, that is hearing
Yes.
something. But so is it reimbursable?
So through you, I am not sure. I was looking over this today and there's no information on it, so I do have an email into Macaulay, and actually I was just looking on their website just now and it's not stated on that. Most of these are reimbursement ones because they want to see that you've done, you know, what you say you're going to do with it, and then you get reimbursed. But I do not have an answer to that tonight.
Are there, Mrs. Sawerka?
Thank you, through the chair. Mrs. Reardon, I would check with the Ohio Arts Council as well. I don't know if Macaulay would have checked with them or not. I actually just did some research on the Ohio Arts Council, and they may have a program for music that we should tap if it's available. 3 local artists just got $5,000 for their art projects through the Ohio Arts Council. So that might be one that may not rise to the level of Macaulay, but it's worth taking a look at.
No, absolutely, thank you.
Okay. Are there any additional questions, comments? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of applying for and accepting, if offered, the 2025 National Endowment for the Arts Grant, NEA, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept the said grant. Emergency clause is requested to application deadline. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 4, the matter of pay rate increase for A, Muni Court employees, as discussed by Judge Bennett and Mr. Rothgary, and then B, non-bargaining Chapter 165 employees, as discussed. What I decided to do, there's been some discussion. Muni Court employees operate under a separate pay structure, completely separate pay structure than other non-bargaining employees. They use a 3-step program that I'll let Mr. Rothgary speak about real quick. We all received a salary study showing different pay rate changes that have gone through so far this year. So at this point, I will turn it over to Mr. Rothgary.
There we go. I am Eric Rothgary, 145 Canterbury Road, Elyria. Again, thank you for having me. I also want to assure Mrs. Swerka, she's not very old. I remember eating burgers at Zephyr Bar and Grill, and I bought a few records at Wagner's too. I think only myself and Judge Bennett might have known those referrals. Great businesses in downtown area. As it relates to the pay of our employees, first of all, let me point out that this is would not be a pay increase for myself, Judge Bennett, or Judge White. Our employees, we're just looking for the same cost of living raise that the rest of the city employees, or most of the city employees received here in the last month or so. Not looking for anything more, not looking for anything less. I did want to point out on the money front, we are doing pretty good over there currently. Obviously, like most places, we had a little lull during COVID, but we bounced back by 22 and sent over $1.5 million, and then we were up to, in 23, we got ourselves up to 2.3, and then over 2.5 last year, and we continue to increase. Business is not slowing down at the court. I know for myself in my office, I have 17 employees. When I took office 19 years ago, I think we had 25 employees, and obviously technology and other things have allowed us to work a little more efficiently and a little smarter. Again, just asking for the same cost of living raise that most employees received. Thank you. Thank you.
How
for
many
your time.
employees from your side does this represent? Is 17 the number?
17, correct.
Thank you.
17. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll stand by if there's
Okay.
any questions.
Thanks for allowing us to speak tonight. The court employees are unique employees, as Eric just explained. We have certain services provided to us by the city through the Ohio Revised Code, including health care, payroll, things like that. But they are totally supervised by us. And in the court itself, between Judge White and I, we have 18 employees total. And that includes 2 magistrates, 2 full-time magistrates, and 2 judges. And this does not include the judges. Our pay is determined by the state of Ohio. Over the years, we've done things to try to alleviate our request for the general fund. We have something called special funds that we are allowed to impose, and we've done that. One of the things the host city has to supply is security. Several years ago, we removed the security from the general fund and set up our own fund. So we paid the security, daily security bailiffs out of a special fund. Judge White this year, he started his recovery court 2 years ago, but this year he's managed to find grants to cover his probation officer, and again, that's a mandated fund, a mandated employee that the state, the city, the host city has to provide. So we've always done things like that. The building itself is being paid by special funds. So we have that beautiful building that matches this beautiful building, paid through court costs. I don't like to call it a user fee, but it kind of is a user fee. If you have the disadvantage of being sent to municipal court, part of what you pay out is going to pay for the security, it's going to pay for the cleaning, it's going to pay for the building. So again, we are simply asking that these employees be treated the same as the other employees. They're not in unions. They literally work at the pleasure of the appointing authority. Their jobs will last as long as I'm the judge or Judge White's the judge, and the new judge can come in and get rid of everybody. So they don't have that kind of security. But we would simply ask, they're dedicated, hardworking employees. We have had a huge increase. You may recall that during COVID, the traffic department pretty much slowed down. Nobody wanted to be face-to-face at their car window with a police officer, or a police officer face-to-face with a citizen. Last April, I believe it was last April. May. The city, the police department reactivated the traffic unit, and we have had thousands of tickets since then. And that's fine, that's what we're there for. But the number of people that pass through that building on a daily basis, hundreds, some days of the week, is pretty incredible, and we have people to take care of them. We run a very efficient court. We're one of the largest community courts in the state of Ohio, and our numbers are right up there with the best of them. So again, these folks are hardworking. They're frontline people. They work with the public every single day. Needless to say, a lot of the people that come to Muni Court aren't the happiest people in the world. They're there for a negative reason a lot of times. And our folks have done a very good job of calming people down. We have special programs. We have a program called Elyria Drives. What that program is for anybody in the community. You don't have to have a pending ticket, but we help people get their driver's licenses. And we've helped a lot of people do that. And if you're aware of our community, as obviously you all are, there's no public transportation to speak out there. If you don't drive, it's hard to work, it's hard to take care of your family. There may be jobs in Avon or Amherst, but if you can't drive, you can't get to those jobs. So we've done a very good job with this program. It's called Elyria Drives, and actually I'll send some brochures over here. I think it'd be something nice for you folks to know that we're actually doing in the city. So again, simply asking to treat our employees like the other employees were treated. Are there any questions?
I'm going to make two statements, and I'll open it up to statement number one. I've circulated I wanted to get the exact details on how the Elyria police traffic enforcement, the two officers that we put on, how that affected the courts. And from why I know it was May, you have it, you all have that. It was 11,000 citations from May through the end of last year. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said them at the places. Incoming, I apologize. Also, just for record, Muni Court represents not just Elyria, but North Ridgeville, Grafton, LaGrange, Carlisle, Columbia, Eaton, Who am I missing?
Leary Township.
Elyria Township as well. So it's not just Elyria who's they're enforcing. Okay, Mr. Callahan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, to Judge Bennett. In my old age, my hearing isn't as always good as it
sorry.
used to be. So, but I just wanted to confirm this. 18 employees between you and Judge White, or 18 apiece?
No, 18 total.
Okay, thank
We
you.
each have 7 general staff in our offices, and then we have a magistrate's office with 4 employees.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
I apologize. I thought that was circulated, that email before. Go ahead. Ms.
Thank you.
Mitchell, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you, I'm not on this committee, but out of all, Judge White, out of all the cities.
I'm Judge Bennett. Judge White's
Yes,
the
you
other
are, I
guy.
apologize, I'm so
I'm the
sorry.
better-looking one.
I'm sorry about that. But out of all the cities that you mentioned, is Elyria the only one that pays the wages?
No, no. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to point it over to Mr. Pileski. Generally, the host city, which Elyria is the host city, does, a lot of our wages come through the general fund, which we do make contributions in to the general fund, and then we have people also that are paid from the specialty funds. But as far as the other cities, we would collect a court cost from those cities for cases that they send to us. And there is some formula that we could get some of the fine money back, but I don't believe that we ever receive any of the fine money back. It's been very rare, isn't that correct, Mr. Pileski?
Through you, Chair. Actually, we bill Grafton, LaGrange, what's the other ones?
North Ridgeville.
North Ridgeville. We bill them every year, and it's limited to what you send them.
Right.
So, I mean, we do a calculation of what it costs to run up Muni Court, but they're limited to sending us back what they
we've sent them.
receive.
So, yeah,
So it's a little bit of money, but not much.
I know I was law director at LaGrange, and we handled our cases here, and we never got any of the money because our volume wasn't such that we ever was in a position to collect any money.
I mean, if they had to, based on the formula, they would really have to pay us quite a bit, but it's limited in the Ohio Revised Code to a certain amount, so.
there has, on a similar, I guess, related subject, there has been occasionally a push in Columbus to get rid of mayor's courts, which would be, I think, a good thing for the city of Elyria.
It would be.
We'd bring in a lot, probably bring in even more money, especially from North Ridgeville. North Ridgeville's mayor's court has gotten quite large.
And just to explain mayor's court, the city can set up their own traffic court and charge fines and costs and those kind of things. But it's pretty limited, and I'm going to give you a trivia question. You may get this on a trivia game. There's only 2 states in the United States that still have mayor's courts. They've been outlawed in the entire United States except for 2. We know one is Ohio. Take a guess who the second one is. Nope,
Montana.
nope,
Nevada.
nope. Louisiana. And I don't even think you have to be a judge to be to be in Louisiana. I think you have to own a general store and have a shotgun, so. This isn't televised, right?
Are there any additional questions regarding municipal court? Mr. Stewart?
Yeah, I'm not on this committee, so Judge, thank you, and Mr. Rothgary and Judge White for all the other efforts that you do to try to, for grants to help kind of offset some of the costs over at the Muni Court. I know that you and I have kind of met in the past along with the finance director and law director about this salary schedule. So I was just kind of wondering how come that, or why the courts don't feel like that is something that you should look at it and maybe entertain. You know, that's something I thought that we could work through, but I struggle with giving, just because it's been old, the way that we've done this with Chapter 165 of the Immunity Courts to continually give what AFSCME gets. For the 654, that's what they just recently received, even though the courts are not a bargaining unit. And I know that's what history tells us, but
You really want the courts to be a bargaining unit?
no, I don't want that.
I was going to say, I don't think justice can go on strike.
No, I don't want that, but I don't, there's not a, but I don't think that, in my opinion, I was hoping that we would kind of get to a point to where we look at the salary schedule to kind of see where the courts lie with, within the city that they performed back in 2019 when this was enacted, and that it just seems that that's not happening. And I just don't understand why they wouldn't look into that.
We'd be happy to sit down in the future and discuss some of those things.
I would also point out we're a separate branch of government, so because one branch of government does things one way, it doesn't mean that all three branches should do it the same way.
Right, and I respect that. But I would thought there would be a way that we could work through that, and I was hoping that this go around, because I know that we, back in 2021, when this was brought up and through, we kind of did a 1 year to look at it, to see where we're at financially, and then I think the following 2 years, we reenacted those following 2 pay raise increases over and through. I was just kind of hoping that we could do that, and I'm struggling with giving 654 with what's been presented here. Thank you.
Ted, if I remember correctly, the cost of this for Muni Court at 6% was could you tell me that again, 163?
To you, Mr. Chair, sorry.
You're fine.
So the first year looks like it would be about 143,000. Second year at 5% would be 126,000. And third year at 4% would be about 107,000.
Okay, thank you. Are there any, Mrs. Sawerka?
Thank you, through the chair. I agree with my colleague. It is difficult to try to shoehorn these people in without a salary structure, without a salary study. I did do a salary study for Avon Lake Municipal Court. They put their employees in when the entire city was studied a few years ago. And so that was good information because it showed us where they were in the market. I do have a couple of more specific questions, though. And I appreciate Mr. Rathgary saying that, maybe they would sit down and talk about being part of the salary study. So I guess my first question is, could we at this point in time do the 6% and kind of put the 5 and the 4 on hold until we have a chance to sit down and maybe talk about it? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, what's the average longevity that we're paying in court employees? Do you know? Just ballpark.
Got people that have been around for a long time.
15%?
There, I would think. I should say, I've had a number of people retire in the last couple of years, so I have.
So let's say
I have some
12.
new play-
So
Maybe
I would
half-
just,
Maybe about half. I got half that are older and half that are younger, so 10?
okay, so 10%. So my colleagues should keep that in mind, that in addition to these raises, in addition to the 6%, most of these employees are getting an additional 10% because they still get longevity because they were not part of the salary study. So longevity still continues for them. So just keep that in mind. My last question is, and I appreciate the HR director did a very nice spreadsheet. Over the weekend, I had asked for some additional numbers, and we have those. There are some employees from Muni Court that have not had an adjustment since '23, but there's a sprinkling of ones that have had them in '24. So I wondered why that was and how that came about. Because certainly if we are giving a blanket amount of money some of these people just received a change.
The only
and-
thing I can think of was security. And we did some things with security because we were having a hard time hiring security officers. The sheriff was outbidding us by several dollars an hour, so we did adjust the security.
I
They-
have, like, in my office, Mr. Circa, we have a bunch of different slots. Some of them we don't use at all. Some of them are for supervisors only. So like, say, for example, 5 and 6 never get used. 4, I've got somebody who's retiring out of 4 now. It depends on what you do, your job is. But in last year, there's probably, I had my director of IT retired, so somebody moved up because of that. I had a supervisor leave, so I have a new supervisor in civil, and I believe I have a new assistant supervisor too. So some people like that would have moved, and maybe a new employee maybe have moved in a from a probationary period to another job.
Through the chair. It looks like there's a couple that, there's a couple that are noted as new hires, and I get those, I understand those. But there are a couple that, for whatever reason, received a bump as late as December of '24, went to, perhaps they went to step A, they were at step B. And that's just Muni Court people. The judges, the magistrate, which I understand, I think we changed the magistrate, I remember that. And the assignment commissioners, that was another one that I think we acted upon, council acted upon that, so I don't have a question about that. And then secretary, I'm guessing it was a new hire. So really, it's just in Muni Court itself.
Yeah, I would say, if I may, there are certainly, if somebody takes on additional responsibility, there's a merit for moving into, so we do have people, new employees that may have a probationary period and bump up from there, but in general, people pretty much stay where they're at unless they've taken on an additional responsibility or additional position. I'd be happy to discuss if there's a specific one. I'd rather not get into specific
No,
people,
I don't, and
but
I
I'd be
agree,
happy to-
I agree,
I'd be happy
yeah.
to stop and talk to you about it.
I just question, through the chair, I just question that there are people on the list that we received who did in fact, it looks like they just got bumped up in like December. Taking, new hires out of the picture, taking the assignment commissioners, taking the bailiffs out of the formula, and some of your other, like, really specific, your probation people, and, I mean, those are really specific jobs that, so I guess those are my questions, so.
Through you,
keep-
I'm sorry, just, I wanted to point out, and Mr. Pileski, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mrs. Swerke, you mentioned that some have not had anything since 2023. I believe that was the end of 2023, and that was the last adjustment from the previous, in line with the previous AFSCME contract, which was really for, I think that was the last pay, or the first pay period of 2024 to be effective then. Is that correct? I mean, I think it was in December of 2023 that the most recent increase for the court employees and for other non-bargaining went into effect. It was I think it was the end, and I think it was for the first, effective essentially for the first pay period of 2024.
That's correct.
So I just wanted to point out that, yes, it was 2023, but it was basically for last year.
So it wasn't 6 weeks ago.
No, there are, through the chair, there are some that just got
Yes.
bumped up at the end of '24. I understand the ones that in '23 that the raise was in effect on the 23rd in '23. They probably saw the money in the first pay of '24. I'm not questioning those, Mr. Chairman. I was questioning the ones that were in '24 itself. If they don't say new hire, then there's one that was a Deputy 3, okay, that started at Step C. Now, that might be a new hire. They may have been a Deputy 2, and then they went to Deputy 3. They got a raise in October of '24. There was a clerk who is a clerk A, that got a raise in '24, December of '24. Those are the ones that I was curious about.
I'm sorry, he was pointing out something.
Oh, those are the ones that I was curious about. I think he's got a copy of it. John has a copy?
Again, what they went from what position to what
I'm not sure what they went from through the chair, but I can tell you that they are Muni Court clerk salary, so they're a salaried employee. I'm assuming that's what that means, and they're at step A, and that was effective as of 12/15 of '24. That's okay.
I started listening to you, and then I caught half of what you said at the end.
It's okay.
I believe I had somebody move up to kind of advisor and training, maybe they went, yep.
Through the chair, and I understand that, Mr. Rothgary, and I appreciate that. I'm asking these questions from the perspective of, we just want to make sure, I mean, some of these are double jumps, and we need to make sure that we understand that that's what they are. I don't have a problem with the ones that, the last time they got a valid increase was when the union contract had the last year of.
Let me reiterate this again. I do not, short of a new employee through probation period, I do not move anybody up, basically, up like a big step increase, unless they become a supervisor or assistant supervisor. And I've had a lot of people, again, retire in the last year or so. Right now, so shuffling around of responsibilities and taking. Up last year, we're moved up. Not a cost of living thing. This is, again, we have gone from 25 or 26 employees to 17. So, and extra work over the time.
I guess I'm sad to say that in Muni Court, there's no place to go. You get the job and there's no advancement. There's no moving up, there's no other jobs to get. You get hired for a job and that's the job. For example, but some of my people have been in for 15 years. It doesn't change.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman? Thank you. I don't have a problem with the judges. When I look through this list, they're self-explanatory. Either they were new, or they're your, I'm going to say specialized, bailiffs, et cetera.
Right.
I think that in Muni Court itself, there's a couple that I think perhaps maybe we should understand a little bit more about them and make sure that we understand their progression. But I'm only one up here, so.
I do appreciate questions. I would point out that the revised code allows me to pay my. I'm sorry. I don't think I should have to come over and justify every single person's pay. I don't think you're asking me to do that, Mrs. Soroka. I know that you're not. You're just you have a few questions, and you're certainly entitled to those questions. But again, I can reiterate that people that have moved in the steps have moved because of taking on additional responsibilities. I'd leave it at that. Thank you, though.
Okay. If there is no more questions then from the committee, I will read the committee report. Excuse me, Ms. Davis?
Yes, through you, Chair. I thought this was discussion only.
No.
Well,
Go ahead.
Just for clarification, through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, if the committee or someone on the committee wishes to put forth a motion, technically anything's for discussion only unless somebody's ready to put forth a motion. So if there's somebody's ready to put forth a motion, then that'll happen. So otherwise, it would be discussion only.
I just have a question, just for clarification. Again, I'm not on this committee. And again, just to reiterate to the fact, to the judge and to Judge Bennett, Judge White, and Mr. Rothgary, we all appreciate the hard work that you do. I don't think that's coming under question. They work extremely hard over and through there. But are we just focusing on the Muni Court at this time? Is that option? Is already what's in front of us is Muni Court, not 165?
We're going to go into 165
Okay, I just wanted
next.
just
I was
clarification.
extremely specific in my referral that we would do them because they operate independently of one another,
Understood.
All combo on the agenda, so,
A and B.
well, yeah, but it's still one agenda item, so that's why I think he's asking. I mean,
Okay.
I understand there's separate. Through you, Mr. Chair, there's separate, excuse me, there are separate committee reports, so.
Thank you.
Okay. But yeah, the motion just needs to be specific, and then we'll write it in.
Okay.
Because, I mean, yeah.
What the motion will be then is I'm going to read the committee report with the specific.
Because we can do the report, but whatever the motion is your motion, if you're making the motion.
I will make the motion to approve the 654 for the municipal court employees.
Effective when?
Effective after full council passage. Next full pay period, after the next meeting.
Or I would say the meeting that it passes.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That is the motion.
Okay.
Can I get a motion, please? Is that, excuse me, can I get a motion, please?
That was your motion.
Oh, correct.
You have a motion.
I need a second, please.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor of the motion, please use a voting sign. Aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
We need a roll call then. This will be a roll call vote. Mrs. Davis?
Nay.
Mrs. Sawerka? Mr. Schneider?
Nay.
Mr. Sarah?
Aye.
Myself, Mr. Tolet, aye.
So through you, Mr. Chair, this matter will proceed to council on a minority report.
May I make a motion to amend the committee report? If I could make a motion to amend the committee report to give the municipal court employees, the judges, and Mr. Rothgary's staff a 6% increase, and then we will revisit the additional increases at a later date. And we would make the effective in keeping with the next full pay period where the finance director's office can appropriately adopt it.
Go ahead.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Question?
I'm sorry, who called for the question? For
Mr.
comment?
Chairman,
Yes,
can I ask a question?
yes. Excuse me. Go ahead.
I don't understand why this is being delayed. Other employees in the city got 3-year deals. Other ones are being considered. Why are we the disliked stepchild? Why are our employees treated any differently than anybody else? I don't understand that. And I understand if the city's got some financial issues, why did you wait till the last group to come in before you address those issues? And why pick on the court? I'm in the business of justice and being fair, and I don't feel like we're getting either right now over here.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah. Judge, I will tell you from my perspective that I think we are being fair by giving the employees the first step, the first jump. I think we also have considered that these employees are still getting longevity, which up to 10, 15% more. I also believe that it sounded like Mr. Rothgare was willing to sit down and have some conversation about looking at a salary scale that would keep your employees from having to come back each time in each union negotiations, because they would automatically have maybe 8 to 10 salary steps that would automatically move them up. The beauty about a salary salary scale is that if I come to work for you and I know you're in your job for 6 years, I can see year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, and what I'm going to earn, regardless of what the AFSCME contract is, or the firefighter contract is, or the EPPA contract is. And so it's not anything, in my opinion, it's not being unfair. I think we're being prudent right now, and your employees are going to see a significant increase while we take a look at all the rest of these salaries, because the next item on the agenda is to look at the salaries of the 165 people. So we may treat them the same way. I don't know. It is not meant to slight any of the hardworking people that are over there. They have tough jobs. I give them the ultimate respect because they're dealing with probably lots of same people that they see all the time, and it's a hard job. But I think at this point in time, we are committing to a 6% increase to them.
Judge, I agree with you. For us to think that we're going to balance the budget on 35 employees out of 450 is kind of silly. And I don't think fairness doesn't have anything to do with that decision. So that's my personal opinion. Any other?
Are these retroactive then to the first of the year like everybody else's?
It's a new motion.
No, through you, Mr. Chair. So the motion, or the committee report that's already passed is effective upon the legislation, or the first full pay period following legislation passage. So that would, the one that already moved forward as a minority report would not be retroactive. That was yours, Mr. Tolet.
So it'll be March before they get a pay raise?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Director Pulaski, I don't know what the first full pay period is after, okay, assuming this passage on suspension and emergency on February 18th, which again, I can't presume, but let's just go with that. I don't know what the first full pay period is after that.
Through the chair, we've just began pay period 5 yesterday. So if this were to pass next Monday, then the new rates would be in effect, effective February 9th.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? The second, the current motion, thanks. The amended motion.
Call for question.
Question's been called. All in favor of the motion, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
654. For 1 year.
Remaining years to be held in abeyance is what this says.
Hold on, Eric. Remaining year
Be held in abeyance to be revisited.
to be held in advance. Yes. Okay, have to, next part of this is Part B then. This would be the non-bargaining Chapter 165 employees. So, I don't know how many of you have reviewed the salary study for them. Excuse me, let me find it here. Excuse me, the current pay rates. And Ms. Yusefi, could you come up for a minute to help me with this? Just, I want to make a few comments, and I want to make sure that I'm not stating things that aren't true. Okay, so all the 3% that are shown here for 165 and with the committee, and everybody has this sheet, correct? Okay, those are all Chapter 165 employees,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
When did these 3%, were these just received in 2025?
A person can get a step increase, that's a 3%, so that can happen anytime during the year on their anniversary. But then there's also, so there's 3% between
I think
most.
Mr. Chairman, if
Mr.
she
Yusefi
should
should
come
get
to the
this.
microphone.
I'm sorry. I asked her, pardon? I asked her to look at what I was looking at to make sure that what I was sharing with you was accurate. Pardon? You don't want to know
No,
what
we
we're
all
voting
need
on?
to know.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The 3% increase that is indicated on the spreadsheet is the move from one step to the next step within a salary structure. That happens on an employee's anniversary date or the anniversary of them going to a new step. Okay?
So it could be any time through the
It could be
course of the
any time
year?
during the course of the year. When we do the overall, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we do like the overall increase, like we'll call it a cost of living at the beginning of the year, that is not, it's not even really registered in New World as a new rate, because it's just everybody went up that same percentage.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the salary structure itself, that exhibit gets revised, is that correct? That's how I've always seen it, except for my people.
So through to the chair, if I understand the question correctly, if theoretically, if there was a 3% increase approved this evening, every one of these 13 steps would go up 3%. The difference between the steps, so we start at 0 to 12, the difference between 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to through 6 is 3%. The difference from 6 to 7 is 2%, 2.5. Yeah, 2.5. So it's consistent from 0 through 6, but when we increase them, for instance, in December of 2023, when we put the increase through for pay period 1 of 2024, every step was increased by 3%, so that someone didn't necessarily have to move to the subsequent step. They could remain in that step that they were in, and their 3% was in effect.
Mrs. Sawerka?
Thank you. Perhaps it would be helpful if I maybe walk through this a little bit, if you would like me to.
Please.
I had asked the director so that we could take a look at the 165 managers, if you will, okay? We'll put them broad brush. Not all are managers. There are administrative support people in this list. There are other people on this list. I asked if they could provide us with a few things. Number one, where are they now? Where are they now on the continuum of the salary the salary scale that we have. There is an established salary scale that was created based on scientific data and statistics in 16 or 17, and it's been massaged,
You're referring to the Gallagher study.
which was done once, and then it was updated again, I believe.
We have not updated yet.
Prior to you coming on, it was updated, I
There
believe.
was one in 19.
Yes.
There was, it was 19.
So that study, what it did was it created basically a roadmap for anybody that we were hiring in a managerial role that could see their earnings from year one to up to about 15, I think it was 15 years, give or take. Every other year, they would go up one step, and then it was skip, and then it was every other, correct? That was based on the market at the time, so that, I'm going to pick on Mrs. Reardon. If we had to go to the open market to find a Parks and Recreation director, we would have a salary before us that was what the market right now was at, and whether this person interviewing had 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Because, I'll roll back the pages here, there was a point in time when all we had was 3 steps. And it was nearly impossible to backfill a number of, I'm going to say, credentialed personnel, okay? So, what you have in front of you is where these people are, what their pay rate is, what their next step is, and you'll see some of them are at the top. They've been at the top because when they were rolled over to the new salary scale, they were already above the market. This salary scale took longevity, removed it, so these people do not get longevity. So I asked for, where are they now? What was their next step? What's their annual amount? What would their new rate be at the next step? And what that percentage would be? And when that happened. I would just say that, yes, I did look at this, and there are, in my mind, about 14 people that we really need to look at before we do an arbitrary 6%. Because some of them have moved up, and again, I'm going to say it's a double jump, but it's not really a
Could you
double jump.
define look at?
Probably discuss in more depth and get more detail. And through you, Mr. Chairman, I was actually going to ask and recommend that the Safety Service Director take a look at these specific ones, because in my opinion and work experience, I believe we should be looking at these people who are very dedicated and making sure that before we just give an arbitrary increase to, that they have at least some sort of peer review or performance, which is not done. And so there are some that will go up a step and automatically get the 3%. That's already built in. And perhaps we need to take a look at the space between the steps. It may have to be adjusted. Right now, it's 3, and then in some places, it's 2.5. Perhaps we need to take a look at that and change the 2.5 to 3 all the way around, across the board. I don't know. I will only speak for myself. I am not in a position to recommend an arbitrary adjustment this evening. And I appreciate very much the work that Ms. Yusefi did over the weekend on this. And I'd be happy to discuss further with anybody who has questions, because we don't want to be naming names and.
That's what I was going to ask. How do we protect the confidentiality of these employees legally? Law Director?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, if we're discussing particular individuals, there could be going into executive session, but if you are talking about categories, then that is not necessarily something that we can go into executive session about. So I don't know if that answers your
Protecting-
question.
Always protecting the employees would
Right.
be, but if we are doing it, what you're looking for, could we do it by category, Mrs. Sawerka?
I'm sorry, say again?
If we looked at this and discussed it, could we discuss it by category, not by person?
I don't believe so. I believe that we would need to go into executive session and have names because we have we have employees that have the same title, but they get different pay, and they have different years of service, which is probably why individually there are others that, well, I'm not prepared to vote on this tonight. If we have to go into executive session at some point, then that's what we need to do.
Through you, Mr. Chair, is executive session to talk about individuals something that you're prepared to do this evening? Just for my own information and for everyone else in the committee. I just didn't know if all the information is available to everyone to discuss what needs to be discussed.
Could we give HR and the Safety Service Director's office that time to prepare based on your individual's request from the balance of the Committee of Finance? Mrs. Davis may have some employees that she wants clarification on. Mr. Sarah, would that be okay with everyone if we tabled this and then you submit your specific request by person, and then we could go into executive session? When would that be done? At our next finance meeting, or could that be done in full council?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it could be done at either. I think the matter or the issue would be how much time would be for preparation would be required. So could it be at the next finance meeting? Yes. Could it be at a future full council meeting? Could it be at strategic planning? Yes. But again, I can't speak for how much time is needed. I guess it depends on what the questions are, how many positions and/or people you're talking about, that. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, through you. Two points I just want to make is, the first one is, I have requested in the budget for 2025 to do a review of the 165 salary study, so we can take a look at where, if we have gone off track on any specific position. The second part is, I do have a unique identifier on my file, that I have a unique identifier on my file, so I would be able to look up what who each person is. So if there are very specific positions that you'd like to look at, you could even just highlight it on a spreadsheet, and send it back to me. And we'd be able to look at those specific, if you have questions on those specific people.
How about if I ask this committee to submit to HR this week your specific requests, and then after HR has time to prepare them, then we'll schedule, whether that be for full council or finance committee, just depending on how long it takes for them to get it completed. Is members, Safety Service Director?
Thank you, through you. I would ask that if we're going to do that, you also don't just highlight a particular position, but explain what your inquiry is. If you look at something and you see something, you have a question, why is this that? Why should it be this? Please explain that, though. That way Gene and I can sit down and work through those questions.
Do you want the email sent to both?
Yeah, they can CC me. That's fine. If not, I'll
Okay.
just get them from Gene.
Is finance good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Sarah, you had a question before. I apologize.
That's all right. I was just going to recommend that if we are going to do this through another executive session, it probably would be a good idea to plan it after or on a night of a full council so that we could possibly take action when we came out without any
Okay.
further delays.
Okay. That's what we'll do then. So at this time, yes, Mrs. Sawerka.
Thank you, through the chair. Please understand, I'm not trying to delay this, and I'm not trying to, this isn't fair. Keep in mind that these managers get automatic increases. Okay, they don't have to wait for any union contract. There are already automatic raises built in as they go up the steps. What we're looking at is we're making sure that the steps as they are right now, as the director said, is still right in the market. They still, if they sat down and looked at it's sort of a roadmap, the roadmap of their earning potential. They know what that is right now. It's already set in stone. It was increased, it's been increased, it's been adjusted. That's why I believe we need to look at these to make sure, are they in the right roadmap? Do we have all the information? Because just adding a percentage to this does not equalize these job responsibilities and making sure that they're in the market.
Ms. Safety Service Director.
I just want to add one thing, please, through you, to what Councilwoman Sawerka said. I agree with her with one exception, and that is I count 11 of our managers who have topped out at step 12. So I only want to point that out because we've kind of talked about this salary structure, and I think we're refamiliarizing ourselves with it a little bit. So I do want to point out that they no longer move up. And so I wanted to just make sure that you're aware there are 11 people in that situation. And I do think that's actually part of what we should be looking at as well. That's part of the
Yes.
evaluation.
And through the chair, there was a stopgap for that. So if they topped out, there were some people that went down to the next level, which would be like a higher category, and then still got an increase. So they may have gone all the way over to step 12, but then in order for them to get an increase, they might have had to go to the next level and go over to step 2 or 3. There were people that were moved that way.
I have not moved anybody that way since I've been here.
But I agree with you that it may be time to look at, because maybe 12 isn't enough. Or maybe we need to, every 3, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know what the market is right now. It's very volatile with all the other things that are going on. We should do our due diligence on this.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can I, one more comment?
Please.
The union contracts for most positions do have an A, B, and C rate, so they do progress in a step fashion. Though it happens in 3 years, so once a person has been here for more than 3 years, the only thing they're getting is that's true. The only thing they're getting is what's being given by the in union contract. And plus longevity, which increases, as they are year longer.
Okay. Any additional questions? If not, I would accept. Yes.
Through the chair, I would move to table any adjustments to 165 personnel other than the ones we've already acted on.
Until we have responses from the Safety Service Director and HR Department. Good.
My motion is, if I could make a motion, I would like to make the motion that we table this until we have a time to get additional input and questions, and we have strategic planning take a look at this in full session, in executive session.
Second.
Motion's been seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Jean.
With that, I would accept a motion to adjourn. Oh,
We have number 5.
I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Sorry, Ted. Didn't mean to cut you back. Quiet from the non-committee member. Sorry. Last item, the matter of amendments to the 2025 temporary appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we just have one this evening, and that is in the General Fund Legal Administration Department, bumping up operating and maintenance by $30,000. I believe there's some outside legal services bills that are due, and this is requested by the law director. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the appropriation change? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of the 2025 temporary appropriations and ordinance authorizing amendments to the 2025 temporary appropriations as per attached. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, I will accept a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I guess that one is, could be.